Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division 2 video today by me, Eugen. Today I have for you a first look at the 10th Guards Tank Corps, a new division available in the second Nemesis DLC, Lvov Offensive. If you'd like to read the description on the right hand side, feel free to pause the video and take a look, but I'm going to be jumping straight on in. As usual, we'll be looking at all of the new units available, and then I'm going to put together a quick deck. So let's go ahead and start in the Recon tab. Now this division is completely new to me. I haven't had a chance to check it out just yet, so I'll be going through this with fresh eyes. First of all, we have our good old motorcycles, the WLA DT. This doesn't have a radio, nor does it have very good stealth, so something you're probably going to want to avoid. The Dosor squads, they don't seem to have any decent transports. The BA-64B can be quite nice because it does have armor, and therefore you can harass enemy units with the DT machine gun that it has, especially if they don't have AT weapons themselves. But I think there's going to be better options than Dosor in this deck. There's also the Motorrazvedka. These can come in with the M3A1 Razvedka. Nothing otherwise remarkable. There is the BA-10Ms. Always nice with their HE and 2 machine guns. Good cheap infantry recon support. Also the classic Razvedka squads. 8-man. No interesting transports, although you do have the M2 half-tracks available, which are going to be quite useful, especially in the infantry tab, no doubt. You do have access to some Valentine 3s. These can be really good for sniping units at range. Great for transport sniping. Because they have the rate of fire on that gun. The 15 round per minute rate of fire base, you upvet them a little bit, then that can go up significantly. You see at 2-star veterancy, that's already up to 20 rounds per minute with 50% accuracy, which is pretty damn good. There is a card of the classic Su-57. Not many decks actually have access to these, but again, really good because of the rate of fire. You've got 12 round per minute rate of fire there with a little bit extra veterancy. You're pushing to 16 there with 2 veterancy plus the accuracy, which is really good as well. So you're pushing 55% accuracy, make that 68 at 2-star veterancy. Very nice indeed. Then there's a T-3485 Razvedka. Now, we've seen T-3476 Razvedka, but I don't think we've seen a T-3485 Razvedka. So this is something new, I think, in the game. It is the 1943 variant, so it only has 1 machine gun. But this could be useful for support of your mainline tanks, just to provide you that extra line of sight onto AT guns that might be engaging you from a distance. So something to consider, especially if you're maybe cutting down on tanks in the tank tab for whatever reason, maybe due to the cost of the cards. Let's jump into the infantry tab. So the infantry tab, you only have 7 cards available, so you're very limited as to how much firepower you can bring here. You do have the Superle PPSH available, the 4-man squads. They can come in the M2A1 half-track. You actually have 18 of those available. That's quite nice. But not a squad that I think is worth bringing if you have limited cards available. There's the Avto Komroti 2-man leader squads. They can come 4 in Phase A and 6 in Phase B. GV Komroti. Much prefer these because of their smoke utility. 20 points for 4 available on the card, 8 available in Phase B actually, which is quite nice. That might mean that you might want to play around with the artillery leaders in the artillery tab in order to make up your Phase A leaders and then have these come in Phase B maybe. There are 3 cards of Gvardia. This is quite significant. These are your standard line infantry. They're good for holding the front line, not necessarily so good for pushing it, unless you have decent fire support behind them. But cheap and cheerful can certainly help you out, and I think we'll probably see these used a lot in this division. Then there's a card of Tanko Thessaloniki. You can actually bring these in Phase C if you wanted to. Usually Tanko Thessaloniki, I think, are often limited in phase deployment, especially numbers. So being able to bring 27 in Phase C is quite remarkable indeed, since they do have those Molotovs and the 8 submachine guns. Very, very effective close-range infantry. There is the Avtos, I think crazy on their transports. The classic 10-man submachine gun squads, they do lack the availability. Gvardia DP. These are standard Gvardia with an extra machine gun and one less submachine gun, and they replace their AT grenade with an anti-tank rifle. So useful for different situations. Gvardia DP obviously going to hold better at range. Standard Gvardia, just good for brawling really at closer ranges, especially like the 500 meter range. Gvardia with some extra veterancy can really do some damage. Then we got the Sapari squads. Sapari have become kind of a standard, I guess, for 1v1 because they use the SVTs, which do put out more DPS than the Mozins. But limited availability might mean that in this division you don't see them too much. Sapari Komrati is available, nothing special here. Not a big fan of them, and the Tanko Komrati just limited availability, although these do come with a sniper, so an interesting squad. That could actually be pretty useful, although sniper leader squads tend to just reveal themselves at range, and if you're turning off the sniper, what's the point in having a leader squad like this? So yeah, I'm not convinced that this is really a good choice. Either way, let's move on to the tank tab. So, the 10th Guards, they are pretty beefy tank division, but as you can see, they don't have any IS-2s. They actually rely on captured German armor for their heavy armor. Otherwise, it's mostly medium tanks. So they've got T-34 76 Komrati. You got 2, 4, and 6 in A, B, and C. Seen these before many times over. You got the T-34 76 1942. These are the ones with the 90mm of frontal armor. Trade a lot better with Shermans than a 1943 variant. So nice to have plenty of those available. You got 4 cards if you want them. Then there's a card of the T-34 85 Komrati. Again, pretty standard stuff. It's the 1943 variant with only 1 machine gun. And you got 2 cards of the 1943 variants, and you got 2 cards of the 1944 variants. And the main difference between the 85 1944 and the 85 1943 is the 1944 has an extra machine gun, and it also has those AP shells, and also has better accuracy. So the accuracy on the main gun is 45%. On the main gun of the 1943, it's 40%. Don't get confused by the accuracy of the APCR, which is 55%. That's a bit of a difference there. So the T-34-85s, I generally prefer them for the extra 5 points over the 1943 variants, because not only can you APCR switch so you reload faster, but also the extra machine gun allows them to help out at close ranges a bit better. So that's really nice. Also, really like the camo. Very cool. Moving on, we got the T6 Tigers. These are the same as the ones you get in Bazugli. So, yep, just a standard Tiger there with the 125mm of frontal armor. It's always good to see a Soviet Tiger, when you're controlling it, take out an Axis Tiger. That's always quite amusing. Not so much when you're on the other end. Now you do get 2 in Phase A, 4 in Phase B, and 8 in Phase C. So you got to decide when you're really going to want to use these. Honestly, I kind of feel like this division's going to rely on a more early to mid-game punch. So Tigers and Panthers probably A and B, most likely, with maybe like a Vanguard playstyle or Maverick playstyle. But like 1v1s could be quite prevalent, and then maybe more balanced for 3v3, 4v4. That's kind of the gist I'm getting from it so far. You could also probably do a Juggernaut P34 76 spam deck, which would be pretty fun actually. And then we got the T5 Pantera. These only come in Phase A. Interesting. Okay. Really nice camo. This is the camo that I absolutely love from the campaign. So it's nice to actually see it in the hands of people in multiplayer now. And that's really cool. Very, very nice indeed. Captured Panther with that sort of dark green camo. Very, very nice. I like that a lot. So you're probably going to be looking at bringing in the Panthers in Phase A and then probably the Tigers in Phase B, I would suspect would be the best combination. And then if you want any like long-lasting engagement, maybe you could push for like 1944s in Phase C. Anyway, let's move on to the support tab. Got Flamers, of course, the Ogdemachiki. Most divisions do have these. I'm actually surprised this one does though. Like a couple don't, and it's usually the tank divisions. This one does. So it doesn't suffer as much with a lack of infantry as maybe some of the other tank corps on the Soviet side. We've also got access to Maxims and SG-43s. There's going to be the OB-25 in there as well. That's really nice that you get that support on top of everything else. You are limited to 6 cards in the support tab, so in terms of activation points, this could get quite expensive if you want to bring in a lot of the stuff, especially if you're going to rely on supply, but I'm not sure what the artillery tab's like yet. We'll have to have a look. By the way, there is access to the SU-122. This does come with the 160mm penetration heat main gun, which is pretty decent. If you give it some extra veterancy, then you're going to be looking at like 50% accuracy, which can be quite significant at taking out heavier armor. But you do limit yourself massively with availability should you do that. So you'd most likely be more reliant on one star with maybe extra veterancy from commanders. Speaking of commanders, your choices are 3 different commanders in Phase A. So I think what they've done is they've pretty much standardized commanders, so you can bring them all in Phase A, but they just cost a little bit different. And this is really nice. I like this a lot. I think the M2 combat is definitely the best choice in this case because it's only 100 points. The motorcycle is probably a bit overpriced. Well, definitely overpriced for what it is. And the T-34-85 could be a really useful commander, actually, as well, because it is quite heavily armoured. You'd just probably have to still keep it hidden, but it would be able to save itself from artillery and also airstrikes quite easily, compared to the M2 combat or the WLA combat. Let's move on to the anti-tank. So PTRS squads are available. I see this being actually potentially very good in 1v1 because of the access to the Ogdemachiki, to the OBs, the PTRS squads in Phase A, maybe the Sapari in Phase A. It's quite a lot of rush troops, like strong Phase A presence, that could really do a lot of damage from the Soviet side. There is a card of Panzerschrecks as well, which is very, very nice for a Soviet division. There's 2 cards of the 45mm AT guns. These are your standard AT gun with the 12 round per minute rate of fire. Very good at the start of the game when you bring them in with like a fast transport like the Jeep. Really, really nice. You can get access to the WC-52, but it's not quite as fast as the Jeep. But the Jeep allows you to bring these up and unload them onto roads to get transport snipes early. Then there's the ZIS-3. Nothing special there for the transports. But the ZIS-3, 50 points now with the accuracy and rate of fire. It's actually a decent gun. And I think in Phase A, 2-star veterancy could be an idea. There's also access to the SU-85s. These in light cover can be absolute menaces. But they're not too good in open ground, so quite a niche unit. Got to make sure you're microing them a lot when you do use them, which I guess puts a lot of people off playing with them, but because they're only 60 points and they can kill something that's, I guess, a lot more expensive, like a panther or a tiger, they can pay themselves off very quickly. Anti-air, let's have a look here. So this is looking pretty weak, but you do have 2 cards of the 37s, but 1 card, well, 2 cards of the Maxim 4Ms as well, but I wouldn't expect anyone to bring in the Maxim 4Ms. You probably just bring in 2 cards of these 37s. You get 3 in phase A and 6 in phase B. That'll probably do you for most of the game. Then we have the artillery. So, artillerists, pretty standard stuff. Nice transport for those. Although artillerists in the BA-64Bs, if you were lacking recon infantry for whatever reason, wouldn't be a bad combination necessarily. Visivod I think are going to definitely be needed though because of the lack of infantry cards in the infantry tab. Other than that, you get the F-22 artillery. There's going to be 82mm mortars. You can also get 82mm mortars on motorcycles. You get 1 less availability. Actually, no, I think you get the same availability, actually. So they cost 5 points more, but you get less ammunition. I do prefer the motorcycle mortars, just because you can fire and move much quicker. Then there's 120mm mortars, which, if used en masse, can be really quite strong, but tough to set up in a 1v1, 2v2 scenario. 3v3, 4v4 can actually be really effective, but do cost a lot of supply. Then there's the Androsha, 300mm Androsha. This thing has a lot of damage. Definitely can be used to take out large armored targets and other big groups of infantry and so on. Then we have the air tab, and we have another ace in here. It's going to be Pokrishkin. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. But either way, he's flying a Cobra, and that looks really cool. Lovely camo there. Let's go through them all from the top though. So we've got the U2LNB. This is a biplane recon with bombs. This could actually be really quite useful at the start of the game. Everything's pointing towards like a Vanguard Maverick division. Yak-1Bs available in phase A and B. We've got Yak-1Bs with the 2 50kg bombs. We've seen these used in competitive play just to weaken infantry squads and also take out weakened fire support weapons. Also just attack fire support weapons in general to weaken them in the first place, because these don't take long to reload at all if you don't actually shoot stuff with the main guns. There's IL-2s. These come with 132mm rockets, but only 4 of them, which is a bit weak. Yeah, it's a bit weak, really. And there's the IL-2Ms with 8 rockets. This is a bit nicer. Some decent firepower for hitting tanks. You do get 2 cards of them, so could be a substitute for using tanks in the late game. There's also a card of the PE-283 with the 2 250kg bombs and the 4 100kg bombs. 450 km/h speed makes these pretty nice bombers because they have a nice resilience, the very good resilience, and also decent speed. So they can get in and out before your opponent reacts, unless you're going like deep towards the enemy lines. Also a card of the IL-237s. Again, a lovely phase A opener. Then there's the P-39 Cobras, the standard Cobras, the Ace that I already pointed out, and also the PE-2 variant with 500kg bombs. And that is your lot for the units in this battle group. So let's go ahead and put together a battle group. I'm very tempted to try out the T-34-85 Razvedka, but I do feel like it's a little bit overpriced. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in some Su-57s in phase A. I think they're going to be useful for sniping. And then I'm also going to bring in some BA-10Ms. and some Razvedka squads. I'm probably going to do Razvedka squads in phase A. This is only going to cost me one action or one activation point to bring them in. I'm probably going to just bring them in normal Stubbecker so I don't use up the M2 half tracks, because I'm probably going to use them for other infantry. Okay. Infantry tab's going to be a tough one. I think the Tankos, they do need to be brought in phase A. Probably a unit of Gavardia in phase A as well. Definitely want to go for Gavardia in B, unless Gavardia DP would be better. Maybe Gavardia DP in phase B would be a better choice. We have a card of Gavardia in phase C. Not going too much into the veterancy, again just because of limited availability in cards. These cards do get quite expensive as well, so you might not want to invest in this last card. I'm just trying to think, if we were to add a leader unit, like the Recon Rotti, don't think that's going to be enough for phase A alone. So maybe bringing in some Sapari as well might be the way to do it. Again, that's still very limited though. I think it's got to be another Gavardia squad. Yeah, we take out the Sapari. And maybe I could put them in phase B. But we do kind of need to decide on a deployment type. And I'm probably going to build this for 3v344 since that's what I play the most. So I'll probably stick with a balanced deployment type. And see if I can make that work. So we're definitely going to bring in the Panthers and the Tigers. The Tigers we're going to bring in phase B. And then I'm going to rely on everything else for my armored support throughout the game. I do have the phase A leader. We're definitely going to bring in the combat commander. I'm going to also make sure to bring in the flamers. Just going to go through and add things that I know that I want. So definitely the AA, for example. Kind of tempting to make these like 2-star in phase A. Let's go ahead and do that, and then we just have 6 in phase B as spares. So that's for sure. The Androshas, these could be really good. I think they're more of a late game. And the Vizivod UPR will bring in as well. Yeah, these are more of a late game thing. The only other thing that I need to decide is whether or not I want these 82mm mortars. I think we will want at least one card. So I think that is about it for that. It's going to be tough to rely on these 82mm mortars for most of the game. Let's go back to the tank tab. So I'm going to want to use both of these cards of 1944s. I think I'm going to bring one in phase C and maybe one in phase B, although the difference in availability is huge between B and C. But maybe I could have some upbedded as well. How about the availability on the T-34 1943s? And that more or less doubles into phase C. In phase A, I'm definitely going to want some T-34 76 1942s. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to upbet these. And then we'll bring a card in phase B as well. Okay, we'll leave it at that for now. Anti-tank. I think I'm going to want the card of Panzerstrex. The Su-85 is a maybe. I think I should bring in some of these in phase A at least. We'll leave it at that for now. We've got currently 14 points remaining, so I'm going to throw some stuff into the air, I think. We'll probably want to use Cobras. We'll bring in the Ace. But I'm also going to want to have, I guess, more fighters than that in phase B. We could maybe go for phase B fighters, and then in phase A rely on the Yak 1Bs maybe. Because those can act as fighter bombers until we get the D-39 in. They're also not that expensive, the Yak 1Bs, which is nice. Now it's a matter of deciding whether or not I need bombers or rocket planes. So currently what I'm doing here with these Androshas is I'm kind of setting myself up for a phase C T-34-85 1944 push, which is going to be quite expensive. Maybe I could go for a Juggernaut. That could be something to work on. I was thinking maybe we should do a card of 1943s in phase C alongside 1944s, because that means that with the 175 income we can purchase one of each every tick for 1943 and a 1944. And then I'll put more 1944s maybe in phase B. Actually, you know what? We'll just put more in phase C. Yeah. Alright. Looks like we're going all out with the phase C. So I'm going to bring in a card of these IL-2Ms in phase C as well. That's going to leave us with 7 points remaining. Definitely going to need some supply. Probably phase A and C supply. The OB, we're kind of missing out on bringing the OB, but I was a bit worried about the number of cards we had here. And maybe it'd be fine to bring them. I think a card of Zis-3s, maybe one extra unit in the Recon tab, would not be a bad idea. Either that, we could get another air tab, but I don't think this division can rely too much on its air, because you have limited AA to back it up. I think in 1v1 you might see the air stacked a bit more, but in a 3v3 4v4 I don't think it's going to be as effective. Main reason that Bazooka is not too good right now. I think we're going to go for a card of Zis-3s. And kind of tempted to outvet them, but going to lose us too much availability. I would bring in a card of Zis-3s, and then I'm also going to bring in the T-34-85 Razvedkas. I'll bring those in phase C. They can back up my T-34s. I feel like this is a bit of a one-dimensional battle group right now. Very much reliant on that phase C Juggernaut. Doesn't really have the infantry to match it. Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about the infantry. Because you've only got one card of Gavaria to back that all up. if I remove a card of Gavardio in Phase A, I don't think we have enough infantry in Phase A to hold against a strong push. That's the biggest concern. The only other way we could do it is by removing enough stuff that we would have 4 activation points free. And I don't really see a good way of doing that. Like maybe removing those as 3s and another card that costs 2 points. Don't want to remove the flamers. I mean, maybe we could remove more of the T-34s in Phase A. That would open up 3 points. Maybe remove the T-34s then and get a second card of infantry in Phase C, like the Sapelli in Phase C. Or Avtos. Avtos could be an idea, but not the best unit because they kind of get caught out of range. Part of like Sapelli in Phase C might not be a bad idea. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to mess around with it too much. I don't want to perfect it. This was just a first look. And we'll go ahead and name that battle group. The 10th Guards Tank Corps. There you have it, guys. I think it's looking quite strong. I feel like this could be a very strong early game division for 1v1s and 2v2s. I think it's going to be interesting to see how this affects the league. For the late game, I'm curious if I can make a T-34-85 push work, supported by 300 mil Androshas. That could be very fun, if I can get that far. We'll see. Alright, that's it. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this first look at the 10th Guards Tank Corps. Next up will be the 20th, and that's the 2nd division for the Nemesis DLC on the Axis side. Yeah, those elephants. Who's excited for those? I certainly am. That's it. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.